Welcome back everyone, my name is Lee from Lee's Kitchens. Today we're going to make hot cross buns. We're going to make two types. We're going to make a fruit one and a double chocolate chip one. So Easter has come so fast, it literally feels like it was Christmas last week. So I've got the family coming down and I thought I'd make some hot cross buns. We're going to do them two different ways. So I thought I'd do traditional fruit and also do some double chocolate chip for the kids. This recipe I've got from one of my old bread books and I've just converted it over. So the tried and true recipe and I think it's really good. So by all means, if you've got a bread maker, you can definitely do the dough in that. I like doing it on the stove now. I've got a bread maker, I haven't touched it in years. I think it's sometimes nice just handling it yourself. So firstly, what I'm gonna do is I've got 3/4 of a cup of milk, and that's 175 mils of milk. And I'm just gonna put that into a saucepan. And then I've got 25 grams of butter that I've just chopped, and I'm gonna put that into there. And that's about 1.5 tablespoons. Now we're gonna get this onto the stove and get this warming through. So in both of these, I've got 1.5 cups of baker's flour, and that's a 11% protein flour. And then what I'm going to add is a tablespoon of sugar to each of them. Then I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt to each of them. And that sounds like a lot of salt, but when you're using yeast, the salt actually stops the yeast from being too overreactive. And then I've got a teaspoon of cinnamon and also mixed spice in here. That's going to go into one of them. And then I've got 2 tablespoons of cocoa, and that's just going to go into another one. Now we're just going to give them a quick stir and just make sure all that's combined. Once our milk is warmed and the butter has melted, now we're just going to let it sit and we're going to let it come down to room temperature. So now that the milk and butter has now just cooled right down, it's just warm to the touch if you touch it. I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm going to use some vanilla extract. And then I'm going to add a teaspoon of yeast to each of these. Now I'm actually using dry active, which means I don't have to dissolve it before using it. But I thought I'd do it for the sake of the video because not everyone has dry active. Now I'm going to let this sit for a couple of seconds, make sure it's activated, and then we'll add it to our flour. So after a few minutes and the yeast has activated, now with my yeast, it doesn't make a huge change or anything in here, but it's still active, so don't worry too much about it. Still go and use it. So I'm going to pour this into each of the bowls. And then we're going to stir each of these into a firm dough. As you can see, the chocolate one is a bit dry, so I'm going to add just a few drips of water. And that's just because we've added the cocoa as well into it. So that's all come together now. Now I'm going to mix up the fruit one. Once again, it just needs a little bit more water, and that can just depend on the hydration and everything. You may not need that extra water. So now the doughs have come together, now we can give them a really good knead. So when you're kneading, you just want to use minimal flour. The more flour you add into your dough, the harder it's going to be for it to actually ferment and everything. Now at this time as well, we're going to add our fruit to our fruit one. So I've got 1/2 cup of just dried fruit. And then we can just needle that into it. That one there. Now we're going to do the chocolate one. So I'm just going to flatten this out. And then I've got half a cup of just mixed chocolate and white chocolate chips. I'm going to add these to it. These are baking chips, so they shouldn't melt while I manhandle them. Just be aware that some of the brands will melt as you knead it in. So that looks pretty good now. Now I'm going to put it into our bowl. Now we're going to cover these. And that just stops any direct air from drying them out completely. And now we're going to let them rise until they've doubled in size. Now the time for it to rise will depend on how warm your house is. So my house is a little bit cool today, but upstairs is really warm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these, I'm going to take them upstairs and leave them up there for a good hour. And hopefully they've doubled in size then. If you can't do that, put it into your oven, just turn the light on, don't light it or anything. Or as well, my air fryer has a previewing setting on it, so you can just set that up and just put it in there for really easy previewing. So we'll come back when we go to ball it all up. So now the dough has been previewing for about 2 hours. So now we're going to portion it into 6 pieces and we're going to ball them up to proof, and then we will put the crosses on and bake it. So my dough hasn't actually gone up heaps. It's proven a little bit, but it'd be more than fine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to weigh it. So for this we got 519 grams, and then we're going to find out how much that is, and then we're going to divide it into how many grams that is. So I just looked it up. We're going to cut this into about 85 gram dough balls. And just go for each of them. Add, subtract as you need to. So now I'm going to ball them. So really good idea, don't use any flour at this stage. Then all we're going to do is we're just going to use the friction of your bench to actually get them into balls. Now it does look a bit lumpy, and that's just because of all the fruit that's in it. So now I've got a tray here, and I've just put a little bit of olive oil on the bottom here, just so the actual greaseproof paper actually sticks. That way that's not going to go anywhere. And we're going to put our hot press buns in here. Then we're going to cover them and let them rise until they're doubled in size. Look how big they've got and everything. So now we're going to make the crosses and then we're going to cook them. So firstly, I've just got my oven preheating, and that's preheating to 200 degrees Celsius, and that's around 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So now I've got a cup of just normal flour here, and I've got 3/4 of a cup of water here. We're just going to pour that, and we're just going to make this into a paste. All right, so I have a piping bag with just a small tip in the end. Now, if you don't have a piping bag, you always use a Ziploc bag and just cut the corner off that. So when filling a piping bag, I like to get a mason jar and just peel over the edges over the mason jar just so it sits in there. Open it up, that's going to sit open while I fill it up. So now we're going to grab our hot cross buns and we're going to pipe the crosses on top. And if you really want to, you can put some cocoa into the chocolate ones. But I find cocoa actually tends to dry it out a bit too much, so I'm just going to go with white, nice and plain. Alright, so now we're going to bake these in a hot oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 200 degrees Celsius, and we're going to bake them for 20 to 25 minutes. So now I've just pulled the hot cross buns out of the oven. It's taking just around 20 minutes for me, and that's how they are. So what I'm going to do is, we've still got one more step. What I'm going to do is cover this with a tea towel and make sure these stay really soft while they're starting to cool down. Then we're going to glaze them and then we'll serve them up. So now we're going to make a glaze for the hot cross buns, and it's pretty easy, so I think it's one of those things that you should do. It just makes it look a lot better, just like the ones that you get from the store. And what we're going to need for this is a tablespoon of sugar, a teaspoon of gelatin, then we just need 2 tablespoons of just water, now I'm just going to give it a quick stir, and then we're going to microwave this on high for a minute. Alright, scrap that, I just microwave mine for 30 seconds and it's come out perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our hot cross buns, then we're going to glaze them. So just grab a pastry brush, and they look good. As you can see, it's been a little bit while. It's dark outside now, so it's dessert time and we're going to try them out. So we've got our fruit one and we've got our double chocolate one. So I'm going to try the fruit one first. The inside looks so good, and I'm just going to serve this with some butter. And we're storing these. Keep them in a plastic bag on your bench, and they'll keep perfectly for a couple of days. Or else freeze them and do them early for Easter, and then you've got homemade hot cross buns for Easter. So good. This is the inside of the double chocolate chip. Once again, butter. Everything's better with butter. They're going to be so good. And there we go, 2 ways to make hot cross buns at home. Either a fruit one or a double chocolate chip one. So if you like this video, don't forget to give it a good old like. If you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.